And we are back for the final episode of this meeting. Should have been a podcast of the year, our inaugural year. It's been a journey getting this going, and we're just having the best time. So, introducing my co-host Tom Shin. Welcome back, Tom.
Hey, Tom. Nice to see you again. It's been a hot minute.
I love we did not coordinate hats whatsoever. We both showed up in holiday garb. Love it. That's how on sync we are. If you're listening to this wondering about the hats, we do stream in video, so you can find us on YouTube. You can find it streaming on Spotify, or you can just listen to us. But there are two formats to check us out. So if you're not watching, just listening, that's great. But if you want to watch, make sure you tune in. All right, Tom, I'm going to send it over to you. Let's get our guest in here. Really excited about our conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we brought with us a referral from a mutual friend of ours, another Christine. We brought Christine Mikhail in. She's the owner of Mikhail Consulting Group, and we just found out she's Egyptian. So unrelated to anything. It was just one of those, how often do you meet? I've never met anybody from Egypt, or even with that heritage. I was fascinated by that. So get off on the side tangent. Let me go back to Christine's bio. She's an accomplished entrepreneur. She actually started her business during the pandemic. It was summer pandemic when she set up Mikhail Consulting Group, and she spent the last 5 years with leading organizations design agile structures, cultivating adaptive cultures, and drive sustainable transformation. Big, giant, long words. I have trouble today. I think I'm still struggling from last weekend. At any rate, Christine's long had a organizational development background. She's had a great number of awesome companies. I saw PlayStation in her history, so I'm real curious if that PlayStation noise goes off in your head. But welcome, Christine. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom, for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Launched in the pandemic, and um, there's been no shortage of organizational design need or change management. That's for sure.
Does that PlayStation jingle just bing in your head every so often?
The PlayStation, PlayStation. Yes, it happens all the time. And when I see a commercial, I'm like, man, good times, really good times. I loved being with PlayStation for a while. It was really great. It was actually the year they launched the PlayStation 5, which was a
Oh, wow. Yeah,
really
that was
wild year. Yeah, it was a really wild year to be with them, and it was super fun. And they were great. They gave everybody PlayStations before they went out on the market, so employees got an opportunity to kind of play with that. Yeah, it was great. It was a really nice, like, pre Christmas bonus, because it came out right before the holidays, and then nobody could get a PlayStation for Christmas. That
I mean,
year.
I would put that launch up there with like iPod, iPhone,
Yeah, yeah,
PlayStation 5. Like that was one of those like just culturally transformative
it really
uh
was. It
pieces.
really was, and it was the CEO's objective to be the most talked about gaming console of 2020 and 2021, and it was like no one else could talk about anything else because nothing else was in coming to market at the time, and so many companies couldn't even keep it in stock. In fact, one of the biggest problems that we were helping them solve was bot purchases. How do we navigate bot purchases and actually get them into consumer hands so that they're not being overshot in price on the black market? It was
Oh, and
crazy.
I can
Wild
remember
times.
days. So you go back a few years before that, one of my staffing gigs was I had a client who distributed the games, the platforms, the accessories, everything for all of them. And during their heyday, mid 2010, so 2014, 15, 16, 17, that window, you were navigating which system do I buy? What do I get this one? Do I get that one? It was all this
Yeah,
comparison. And it slowed down quite a bit. But when 5 came out,
yeah,
there was such a frenzy over it.
yeah. It was.
Um,
It was crazy.
so
It was really
So
wild.
talking about transformative, back to
Yeah,
COVID. You started your business
yeah.
in COVID. Tell
I
us
did.
about, what drove that change and yeah, what drove that change?
Yeah, love that question. So we bring 2020 vision to organizations that are dealing with so much fog from transformation, and in the midst of 2020, everyone was going through change. Like no one knew how to work from home. How do we build an infrastructure? What does the policy look like? How do we build performance management programs that actually manage our employees' talent, our employees' productivity without them having to be in the seats? Like, how do we manage in that way? I don't even know how to do that. And so we kind of helped our organizations do that. All of our clients build that. And then they kind of kept us on. They didn't kind of, they kept us on when they started to come back to the office, right? 2022, people were like, let's start bringing people back into the office slowly but surely. What is our precedent for bringing them in? What does our safety policy look like? Kind of all of those things. And so we've helped our clients through massive amounts of change. And yeah, that's how we launched and that's how we sustained. Just the goal is to build change resilient populations one person at a time.
That's a great term, change resilience. I
Yeah.
want to say people talk about change and change management a lot, but they're not talking about that
Yeah.
resilience factor that you're
Mm.
hinting at. Talk to us a little bit more about how that resilience is different than just change management.
Yeah. Thanks for asking that question, Tom. So when we talk about change resilience, we talk about the human, we don't talk about the change itself. So let's just break that down for just a second. When change management is traditionally talked about going from point A to point B, let's take COVID, for example. Everybody was working at the office. Now we're all working from home. What does that mean? Everyone focused on the infrastructure to ensure people could be productive in that remote world. But no one talked about the change these people had to endure overnight. And no one talked about the constant change we were dealing with. We never knew if we should be
Yep.
wearing masks or how often should we be washing our hands? When should we be using hand sanitizer? Where is it effective? No one talked about those things. And for me, that's where the resilience comes in. It was our goal to start talking about change management in a very different way. So we flip it on its head and we talk about it from the psychological behavior and emotional perspective. So we break it down to look, let's have a conversation about what we lost. We all lost the freedoms to walk in and out of our house without fear. That is what we lost the minute COVID happened. And what we also lost was the control of actually catching said virus. We don't even know where it's coming from. And B, we don't even know how it's like transferred besides touch or whatever aerial, but we really didn't know anything. And so what we didn't do was provide space for people to be like, okay, I've lost control of coming in and out of my home. I have lost control of my freedoms to leave when I need to leave. I've lost control of the ability to just go to the grocery store and pick up something to eat. I've lost control of the ability to go get my mail without feeling like it's also tainted. So what we did was let's talk about what all this means. We need to make space for the fact that we lost all of this. So people tend to go from this is where we want you and this is where you are and this is where we want you. But nobody talks about what happens in between. And so
Yep.
what we do is talk about
Love
exactly
that.
what happens in between. That transition is what's more important than the change management itself. So it is, what are the feelings that you're having around this? What do you feel that you can control and what do you feel that you can't control? And that's what the basis of our change management approach is. Building change resilience is about breaking down change one step at a time and talking about what can you control and what do you have to let go of that you just cannot. And it's not your problem to deal with or carry. You've got to learn to let it go. And so we talk about how to get people through those things. It really is like stages of grief.
It's really, really good analogy with the stages of grief piece, because I was just about to kind of talk about or interject about how that business world change, a lot of us are able to separate that from the personal life. But during those first couple of years when you were just getting started, all worlds were colliding. They were all on top
Yes.
of each other. Work life, home life,
Yes.
people are out of their bedrooms. I knew people that were working out of their closet with clothes hanging and kids and pets. And Tom's had his pets, his dogs come through sometimes. That's always fun. He's like, hang
Every
on, I'll be right
episode.
back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, I think
Yeah.
of it from the standpoint of like our elderly parents are less change adept than we are for the most part. They're a little bit
Mhm.
more tech averse because they didn't grow up with it as we did.
That's
Um,
right.
and I say that respectfully because I'm the oldest in the room, but that's okay. Um,
Yeah, I don't know
but
if you know
now
that, but
you
that's
look at
okay.
those scenarios, right? And we're trying to teach people how to adapt, but we take for granted the kids that went through that. Um, in
Yeah.
terms of the teenagers and the kids finishing middle school and high school during that window and entering college, they're in this whole mess. What does their change resilience look like? What are we doing for them?
Yeah. Um, I mean, awesome question. What are we doing for them? Um, I think it's really unfortunate, and I wish I could say that I spent more time with children that are going through this, but I think unfortunately so many people assume children are just so resilient. They're easily adaptive that I don't know. I haven't really focused on them or had anybody tell me how do I help my child. But I will tell you, I have worked with child psychologists who have said they have found anxiety skyrocket in a post-COVID world. They have found focus reduce in a post-COVID world. And a
Yeah.
lot of child psychologists are having to spend more time with children who were um, in that anywhere between 8 and 12 years old during during the pandemic. They are seeing that age group rise in their patient list, I guess is how I would call it. And those are the two things I've heard from child psychologists. I don't know how parents have handled. I know that my sister had a very unique situation where her children were in private school, so they didn't actually go home for long. Like they went back to school pretty quickly, so they didn't have to endure all of the things everyone in the public school system did. So that's a great question, and maybe I should research that.
Gives you a
I
topic to
love
dig
I
into.
love I love this homework, Tom. Thank you.
So I've got kind of an X's and O's question with change management. It's one of those things I think a lot of people are just starting to realize like it's an actual process, it's an actual structure. It's not just feeling good about change or accepting change, which
Yeah.
is definitely a step in the process. But
Yes.
is there a change management methodology that you kind of started with? Have you developed your own? I know there's ADCAR, I know there's
Yeah.
several other kind of methodologies. Like, tell me about your methodology and approach structurally to change.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Tom. So here's the thing. I am ProSci certified, which means I use the ADCAR methodology. And I love that methodology as it pertains to traditional change management. Like when you need to get your people from a point A to a point B perspective. I love that. And our firm leverages that methodology whenever organizations ask us for a change management strategy. It's a great approach and it's a great strategy. But we supplement that with something very unique, which is what I was talking about earlier. So we have built our own change management course. We have a masterclass and a workshop that we have structured around the 6 stages of grief because we do 100% believe that there are phases of change that people go through, and it is anywhere from the 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 denial of change to the adoption of change. And just like in grief, we want to deny that this is real, that this is our new reality. People want to deny that this change let's talk about artificial intelligence for a second. Everybody's talking about the sky is falling and I'm going to lose my job. And I don't know if that's really true. And so all of this denial around um, acceptance of artificial intelligence and leveraging to use it with you instead of using it being something it's going to be used against you. We talk about all of those things. We talk about the denial stage and we guide people all the way through adoption. And we leverage both the nudge theory, which is essentially the idea of introducing new ideas slowly and getting buy in slowly but surely, And then
Yeah,
we
love
also
that.
leverage that, yeah. And then we also leverage there's a three-phased model where the transition space is called the neutral space, which is what I've kind of been talking about. And it's that one space that no one ever addresses. The old world and the new world is often what's talked about, but we like to focus on that center space. We like to talk about slow introduction to idea of change, and we like to talk about the stages of grief, to let go and to adopt. And so we guide our participants through all of that. And this our strategy is always supplemental to an existing change strategy. It is not instead of, it is a supplement to. We still need that infrastructure to get you from point A to point B. But what we also need is to make sure our humans are emotionally ready, prepared, and have the tools to go on that transition journey with you without that unnecessary resistance, anxiety, and fear. And unfortunately, if we don't address the human side, you're going to have all of that. And that's why we have a very low adoption rate typically in a change management plan. It's usually 30%.
Right.
And it's because we're not talking about that transition. We're not talking about the stages of change that people need to go through. We're not giving them tools on how to be resilient. Um,
Is organizational psychology and change management always kind of hand in hand? Because this makes a ton of sense, right? Like, I never think about
yeah.
these two being so closely joined, but listening to you, I'm going, yeah, this makes a ton of sense. Like, I really
Oh,
get Christine's approach here now.
I love that. Thanks, Tom. Yes, organizational psychology cannot live without change management. In truth, organizational structure, development, all of these things that organizations can be going through. Let's take, for example, private equities are buying a whole bunch of things, right? And there's so much happening in the PE world that's in a transformation and a change perspective. And you're restructuring organizations on the fly. You're putting in new C suite level executives. You're changing out board members. But no one's talking about how that change is impacting the humans that need to execute said change. And so it has to go in hand in hand. You can't have an organizational psychological shift without change management in its path.
Do you find that there's more challenges in getting people to try new things or let go of the old?
Um, it
Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
depends.
It's like,
No,
like these
no,
things are
I
pop
love the
That's a
into my
good.
head.
That's a
question.
good one.
It's a very good question. I'm going to tell you, Tom, I think it depends. So it depends on what is the new change. Let's just take COVID, for example, right? For so many years prior to COVID, I was beating the drum of we can work from anywhere. I was trying to get C suite executives to wrap their mind around the idea that the world should be our office, right? We don't need everybody to be in the office. You don't need a corner office to do your job. You certainly don't need a corner office to do your job when you're there only 30% of the time of the month because you're always traveling somewhere. The minute COVID hit, all of a sudden everyone was like, oh yeah, we can work from home. So in that change, it was thrust upon people, but now it's what everybody wants. Now it's like something everybody's hoping to keep, right? So when change is wanted, I think it's easier to adopt, but it depends on what it is. When we're adopting artificial intelligence into our workplace, the question we're not telling our employees is how does that impact them? So that change is often resisted because I don't want you to take my job. I don't want you to give my job to a machine. You still need me. I need to be able to, how am I going to feed my family? How am I going to You're right. All of those questions are valid, and you're going to have resistance. Leaders that are adopting artificial intelligence, you're going to have resistance if you don't talk about how this adoption is going to make your employees more efficient. Because here's what AI does that humans don't do. Well, here's what AI does that humans do, and it will make the human part of work better. They are taskmasters. All of the nonsense that
Yeah.
your
Now we're
employees are
talking.
doing that bog
Mhm.
them down, that deplete their energy, that remove that just strip them of the engagement you want them to have at work, give that to AI and ask your employees, what are they in love with? What are they passionate about? What do they want to keep doing? That's the human work that you need them to focus on. And that's how you sell AI to your business. It's
Right.
not
It's
about
a
taking your
tiny
job.
toolbox, right? You can either stare
Exactly.
at the toolbox and be afraid. I think of Home Alone
Exactly.
with the furnace, right? And
Yes.
there's a
Yes.
newer Macaulay Culkin commercial about Home Alone, and he pick it up online. You'll see it, him as an adult talking about all the
Yep.
different pieces, including the furnace. But it's are you going to stare at it? You're going to open it up and see what's in there because
That's
there's
right.
probably something you
Exactly.
could leverage. I think the fear, and I've been in a lot of HR discussions in and around AI and how it's going to replace people. It'll replace those that don't want to adopt it, that don't want anything that are just fighting it
You're right.
and don't want to learn something new because they think I can
You're right.
still do this. And they're just kind of in this resistance
Hmm.
mode versus
Hmm.
realizing back to the change piece, change is going to happen with or without you. It's how are we
Exactly.
Yes.
preparing and how are we preparing our next generation, right? The millennials, the Gen Zs, the Gen Alphas that are coming. How are we
Hmm.
preparing them to adapt and pivot in this new workforce? Because it's gonna, I mean, when we get to Gen Beta, it'll be even more change.
Yeah. Well, and okay. So you said a lot of things that I absolutely love, Tom. So let's start with the first thing about you got to open it up. I like to look at it from I like to see look at the progression of technology. And you mentioned Home Alone. I like to bring people to the movie Hidden Figures. I don't know if you've seen it, but Octavia Spencer's character as an employee at NASA, just pushing
That's a good
paper,
movie.
she there is a moment where she walks into a huge room, which is where they house the NASA computer, which was the size of a room. Today, computers are in the palm of our hands. But at the time, she walks in and she says to the computer, "You and I are going to be friends because you're the future, and I need to figure out how to make you work so that I make myself relevant." So she basically took the tool that was supposed to take her job and she made sure she was the subject matter expert on how to use that tool so that she could keep her job and not only keep her job, make herself more valuable. That is what artificial intelligence is. When the sewing machine came on the market, seamstresses lost their minds and thought, "Oh my God, I'm going to lose my job." But what happened? We need more seamstresses because we were able to make clothes faster.
Right.
So it didn't take jobs, it made jobs. And so for me, if we leverage artificial intelligence to take off our plates the nonsense that depletes us every day, I just can't imagine the creativity that will abound because we are not bogged down by mundane. And our brains are no longer overloaded with, I need to check this off my list. AI can handle that. I get to be more creative. I get to be more innovative and I get to focus on my being what being a human means. And I'm excited about that. That's what I think is so important.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what this podcast, right? Like I did podcasts before AI and editing was a nightmare and I didn't do video because it was a nightmare. AI came along, it's like, wait a minute, you can auto edit and it can do the video and it can edit. They're like, great, let's have a podcast with video now. Like,
Exactly.
let's lean
Exactly.
into this and let's just focus on having a great podcast instead of like pulling my hair out around all the work around it. And the
Yes.
platform you use automatically is like, here's thumbnails, here's a clip, here's this isolated. It's made this
So great.
process so much easier.
Yeah.
And yet
Yeah.
my company, we just did a AI podcast for a product I rolled out, and I listened to it and I was like, "Oh my god, that's like the best." How how did AI do such a good job?
Yeah.
It could totally
Yeah.
take my job. It just sold this thing
Yes. Yeah.
way better than me.
Notebook LM has this podcast component to it. You load a bunch of
Yeah.
documents, do your analysis, and
Yep.
so on and so forth. But then it has these two bots talking as if they're real people, and it sounds legit. It's
Wow.
commenting on what's in there, but it's this back and forth, male and female
Yeah.
co-hosts
Do they
having
have
a
antlers and a Star Wars
you
hat
know
and a blanky baseball cap? I don't think so.
Exactly.
We're humans are
Exactly.
still
I don't
relevant.
think so.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Well,
That's the
and we
next
will
evolution.
always be, I think, like I think there is a world where we need to be mindful that we are creating artificial intelligence that will emulate empathy, emulate sympathy, understand grief because of the data that it can sift through in an instant. But what it can't do is touch. It just can't do that. It cannot touch human to human. It cannot create, because we are the creators. It is only recreating what we've already created. It's just packaging it differently. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I was just
absolutely.
talking to my husband about this. I was like, I think we are going to see a neo renaissance where people are jacks of all trades, and that's not, and it's not a bad thing. Like, for so many years we said, oh, there's a jack of all trades, a master of none.
Good. That's me.
There's nothing wrong with a jack of all trades. Like, these are great humans. Da Vinci gave us
Yep.
so much more than, inventions. He gave us art. So
Well, and that's the
I
thing I
think that's
like
the
is like
future.
it's pushing us into skills, right? Like you said, like
Yes,
AI does tasks. People have skills. AI, just
exactly.
like empathy, it can emulate skills, but it can't have
Yes,
skills. People can have skills.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
there's so many jobs, when I'm job searching, I apply, I'm like, oh, I'd be so good at this. And
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
take it. And it's like, or I get a job, and almost every job I have, I'm only using half the skills I have. But
Exactly.
the focus of, a lot of that nuts and bolts of jobs going away, people's skills are standing up. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. Tom can do this.
Exactly.
Christine can do that. Oh, other Tom
Exactly.
can do this. Like, and
That's
that's where I
right.
think like the cross training and the broad base of
Just going to say the
Mhm.
same
skills,
thing.
more of you gets used when more
Mhm.
of your task work gets taken away.
That's right. 100%. And yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Well, I was going to lean into that manufacturing point where you see teams cross train across the board for
Mhm.
efficiencies, for gaps in attendance,
Mhm.
basically future proofing any issues with time and attendance because people
Yeah.
know how to do more than one thing, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's out or there's a shortage of product, perhaps. And so it sets them up to keep the wheel moving from a production standpoint. Same thing in office environments. If you're teaching people how to do multiple things, does it take away from time on task? For sure. But
Right.
that's a short term perspective. If you're thinking big picture, preparing people for being able to do lots of stuff. They don't have to love it all, right?
Yeah.
It's work, right? Work,
Right.
some of it's fun, some of it's not. Tom and I've had that discussion. Work is supposed to be work. You get a little
Yes.
sweat, like going to the gym. Do you like it? Yes. Do
Yes.
you hate it? Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Exactly. That's right. That's
how
so true.
But what do
So
you
it's
get out
true.
of it?
future
Yes,
proofing is such a
exactly.
tough piece. And I know
It
we were going to
is.
talk about future proofing the culture in your office. And that's part, I think to me, that's part of it
Yeah.
is giving people opportunity to realize that they can do more than one thing, even though maybe they like the sewing
Exactly.
machine, but your manual dexterity is really valuable in this other area. Maybe it's
Yeah.
soldering or what have you, but um,
And I actually think future proofing your culture is defining the culture that you want in a world that supplements artificial intelligence for tasks. If you are an organization that values innovation, you should be on the forefront of task adoption of artificial intelligence. Give your people back time to be innovative. If your core value is communication, get that nonsense off the people's plates in artificial intelligence. You leverage artificial intelligence to push out all of your emails or your documents, or and let people start having in the room conversations. Like, bring bring your CEO into a boardroom, or host a major town hall where everyone's present and you get to touch these humans and have a communication that way. Eh, the future of the culture, future proofing your culture in my brain is adopting artificial intelligence and laser focusing on those values that you want. If it's creativity, you have a great opportunity to do that. Innovation, communication. I'm working with an organization right now that their core value is to make space simple, and it is simply having the ability to any launch satellites in space without having to build a whole new satellite and schedule a launch and do all of these things. Like, this company is designing the infrastructure so that they can make it simple. Great.
Love that.
You should be leveraging a lot of AI to manipulate your new launch so that you can be creative on how to build that infrastructure, how to make that, make that simple. And that to me is what future proofing looks like.
It's funny, Tom, you know this. We've had a bunch of conversations so far on the show, and they've all talked about AI in some capacity. And I know some
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh, not more artificial
No,
intelligence." I'm
I
like,
know, it's so
it's
annoying.
not going anywhere.
No, it's not.
Well, in 1997, was everyone talking about AOL Instant Messenger? Yeah, everyone talking about the iPhone. In 1923,
Yeah,
was everyone talking about the automobile? Like, this isn't
yeah,
wild. Like, it is
yeah.
change,
I,
kind of change
uh,
we've been facing since the dawn
exactly,
of man. And
exactly,
to me, it's
exactly.
like there's one constant, and it's change. And
I mean, preach
emotionally,
to
how
the
do we get people
choir.
on that, right? Like,
Exactly. And okay, so I'm going to share my screen because this is what I wanted to talk about earlier. And it's something that I love what you said, change is constant. And that's literally something we talk about in our course. It is, Heraclitus, the Greek philosopher, said the only constant is change. And as much as true as that is, and as much as we totally believe that, he was talking about change in a every so often. We are dealing with the rapid, swooping change every single day. And what we talk about is compounded change, right? When we are talking about change in the workplace, that is, we are adopting artificial intelligence. Technology is definitely, Accenture released a change index report that says technology is the number one thing that is impacting business is in regards to change today. And I believe that's true. And artificial intelligence is the leading cause of that. But it's also affecting the way we go to market. It's affecting our culture. It's affecting our leadership. Like if leadership isn't getting on board, we're ousting CEOs left, right, and center, bringing in new CEOs so that they can adopt the board's vision for the future. So that's all just workshop. That's all just change happening in our workplace. Now, let alone, I was just having a conversation with someone. We are dealing with a sandwich generation who is dealing with their own personal change, ailing parents, raising children, getting married, getting divorced, all dealing with their own physical and physical health needs. That's all just your own personal change. That's also a level of compounded change. And we're going to work where we are 40 to 50 hours a week, where we're also dealing with compounded change. It's no wonder people are change exhausted, not just change fatigued, and they are dealing with change trauma. And I mean that by no one has helped them manage change properly, and so we are traumatized by our previous experiences of bad change management. And we need to address that. We need to have honest, real conversations about that was a bad experience and not all change needs to be like that. And this is how you address it. And yeah, I mean, it's just
yeah,
forget
I
the
love all that.
geopolitical, the
Yep.
global effects that are happening to us that aren't in our everyday, but are definitely part of our anxiety
And they're
when it
coming
comes to
faster and they're
change.
coming bigger. So we
Yeah,
all need to get that
yeah,
psychological base under us.
yeah.
It's only
I
going to
heard a
help.
statistic that AI has the adoption of AI happened. The number of people that adopted AI in 3 months is what it took for the world to adopt the internet in 10 years.
Wow.
I thought that can't be a real statistic. I was shocked by
For
that.
sure. For sure. I believe it 100%. I mean, if you can remember, if you go back 10 years ago, Tom knows this from a recruiting standpoint, we used to count the number of percentage of people that had smartphones or even cell
Mm,
phones in particular, right? Because we try to get a
yeah,
hold of candidates for this and that and the other. And it was like
yeah,
one out of three, and then it came one out of two. And then instantly, poof, everybody had them.
everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah,
And so it's
yeah.
like when somebody says, "What's your number?" Everyone's pulling a phone out of their pocket now.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
some folk like we took my mom's away because she wasn't using it and it was just pointless. It was one of those, she turned it on once every 4 months. She was like, I should get another one. I'm like, no, please don't. I'm like, that's just headache for
Does she
everybody.
still
Like,
drive?
right. You can
Yeah,
walk
that's
across the
awesome.
street, if something goes wrong. But what I equate all this change to is we built this computer, right? And the buttons all do certain things. And that start button used to do certain things, and it did complex commands where you did shortcuts. I'm a keyboard shortcut person, so you could do Control C, Control V.
Yeah,
All that AI is another button. It is
Agreed.
simplified 17
A
steps down to
hundred
1 or
percent.
150, and we're just teaching it to do these button strokes, button commands. You think about turning on your smartphone, it's running a whole sequence of stuff in the backdrop. Start
Yeah,
this,
a
start
hundred
this, start
percent.
this, start this, and that's all. That's what we're experiencing is this exponential growth of that technology capability due
Yes.
to the microprocessors and all that, being able to handle all that stuff. And
But it's
again, it's only
anxious
getting faster
making
and faster.
though. It's happening faster and faster, and it's anxious making because we are dealing with a workforce that runs the gamut of boomers to Gen Z, right? Like, and it's not very far behind. Gen Alpha is going to be right there, like in the cusp. And your boomers aren't retiring. It's not like people have the capabilities to retire the way we used to, right? So we are dealing with the advent of all of that, the adoption of that, and the rapid adoption. But there are some people that don't even have the skills, the fundamental skills to adopt with the same rapid level that your Gen Zers do. There's this great opportunity for us to leverage learnings from both generations, the learning of the history of this industry and the learnings of how to leverage the future to make the industry lasting. And I don't know if we're using that. I don't know if we're letting our boomers and Gen Zers communicate in a way that is cross teaching. We're just we're just kind of, asking everybody to adopt this thing, but no one's teaching the other how to do it with ease or why.
So we've I'm gonna let Tom ask this question here in a second, but the one thing I want you thinking about before you ask this question is as we wrap up this part of the conversation, I want you to think about the one thing that our listeners can do in and around change that's gonna make their lives a little bit easier. That's really hard to nail down one thing. Tom, go ahead with your question.
Sure.
My question was like an even bigger pivot, and it is about change, and it's about the system and the process. Are you guys psychologically ready for this change in the podcast conversation?
I think so.
Is that part of change, like stopping and just asking and like presenting and asking if people are ready? Is that like part of a
A
We're being
hundred
process? It
adaptable.
felt,
percent.
it felt, it
A
just happened, but it felt
hundred
like the right thing to do.
percent. Yes. It is so important to understand where people are. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So, this has been awesome. We've touched on all the things I always like want to touch on in a podcast,
Love that.
especially considering we all just kind of jumped in here with our holiday hats today. So Christine, thank you for guiding us through that conversation.
Oh, that's nice. You guys were great. Great hosts.
Let's talk about a not great host, or maybe
Okay.
a great host that did a bad thing. Posted an article. Everyone saw it. We can't not talk about
Yes.
it this week.
No, we
SHRM
can't not talk about it.
just got hit with a $12 million lawsuit for discrimination. The company, the world's largest HR organization that's here supposed to be pulling us together. What are your thoughts? I'll preempt it with I do like SHRM. I'm pretty neutral in all this. I do
Hmm.
think at scale, even the best organizations will have managers and things go sideways. But when you are
Hmm.
the preemptive voice on a topic and that voice comes back at you, it's gonna ripple. So what are you guys like?
Yeah.
Christine, yeah, you go first. What are your thoughts here?
I think she pissed off the wrong people. And they
That feels
just
right.
they found a reason to let her go, and then but they couldn't. Here's where they messed up. You said it was performance, but you couldn't support that. You had no documentation that supported this was an underperforming employee. In fact, you had just promoted that person months before. Now, if she was underperforming in her new role, perhaps it was your lack of training for that new role, or perhaps it was her inability to, maybe she complained about not having the right skill set or tools or resources available to her in order to do her job at the level that she was expected to do the job. So I got to say, I'm shocked. And this is why everybody learned I was Egyptian, because I was like, this is an Egyptian. This is a female Egyptian who is also Black, which I don't know, puts her in a double minority. I don't know. Well, she's a double minority because she's women and Black, but I
I think
was shocked
there's
to
a
read
lot
that she
to
was
what
Egyptian.
you're saying. If we were to kind of broaden it, just perspective wise, when these happens,
Hmm.
I think you're absolutely right. Opinion. somebody didn't handle things the way they should have. We talk about in
Hmm.
the HR world, document things, have real conversations, be
Yeah.
clear and
Yeah.
specific about what's working and what's not. And those
Hmm.
things clearly didn't happen. There was a breakdown in
Hmm.
communication. And here you have an organization that has the spotlight thrown on them. And again, there are things to like, there are things to dislike, agree with, disagree with. I think that's true in every organization. They just have a giant spotlight
Yes.
on them. And especially if this is your bowling
Bread
alley.
and butter. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a better
Your
one.
your whole your whole objective is to ensure equitable practices in employment. So what's interesting though is what I don't know, and I'm curious to know, is what did Mohammed support as far as evidence was concerned? Like
Yeah, we'll never know that.
she must have had a decent amount of evidence to support her claim for discrimination, but it's just it's funny. Here's what's crazy is I was just having a conversation with my sister about a termination that's happening in her organization that she feels seems to be wrongful termination. And I was like, it's really unfortunate because the age and race of this person doesn't allow them to claim discrimination. And it's just crazy. It's just a crazy world. Because if SHRM can't get it right, how are other organizations
Like
supposed to get it right?
that's my thing with HR, right? Like every manager in every company, not like it's so in every organization. Someone gets
Yeah.
upset, wants to fire someone, or
Yeah.
someone's
Yeah. Yeah.
underperforming and they need to get terminated.
Yeah. Yeah.
HR's whole role is to be that safety net that
Yeah.
makes sure that it's right for the employee,
That's
right for
right.
the company, and avoids this. And that's where I think the miss is not that it
Hmm.
happened. I mean, people are people. And at the scale and
Yes.
size of SHRM, it's going to happen in that population
Hmm.
size. You're going
Hmm.
to have you know, all version of it. But I think
Yes.
for me, one of the telling pieces is the response to it from SHRM, where they publicly said, we strongly disagree with the ruling and
Yeah.
called it meritless and plans to appeal. I think that's a huge missed opportunity. And then they also
Great.
said this is just
Agreed.
a blip and they maintain their integrity and adherence. I think the biggest opportunity here for SHRM is to go, yes, something was missed and this is a
Yes.
lesson and this is what we're
Yes.
doing to fix it.
Yes.
And this is
And
a
you can
lesson.
still
Remember, this is a
appeal.
lesson we try to teach. And like to confront it head on. It's something I talk about all the time. It's like nobody in this day and age ever wants to admit they're wrong, ever, ever, ever.
And that's
But
most managers, right? And I when I talk to folks about this stuff, it's all right, you had an employee who didn't fulfill what they were supposed to, and you had to let them go or put them. We talked about PIPs before too, Tom. Right? You had to put them in that situation. The manager is equally part of that equation. They didn't communicate
Hmm.
clearly
Hmm.
enough. They could have said it till they're blue in the face, but if they didn't put it in terms that the employee really understood, it's still on that manager. They're still
Yeah.
responsible for that employee's performance.
Agreed. Agreed. The article also says that SHRM seemed to distance themselves from the DE&I initiatives and, quote, removing equity from their language
That's a
altogether.
whole nother conversation.
It is a
that's a
whole
whole
other
podcast.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And an
true.
internal
That's
meeting
true.
I didn't want to be in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
I mean,
Fair enough.
it's they're supposed to be the example. What are organizations supposed to look to now? It's interesting.
I mean, there's so much pressure and so much money
Yeah.
behind politics right now that
Yes.
even the staunchest, strongest people are moving over. They're not changing their
Yeah.
beliefs, but they are taking the
Making
L
shift.
to
Yeah,
survive another
totally.
day. And I
We
really
live in
wish they
strange
didn't. I
times.
really wish they didn't, but
Yeah.
man, it's easy to say when the target's not on you. And I hope more people can
Agreed.
hold strong and more companies can hold strong because it sucks.
Agreed.
But the power
Agreed.
behind it is not to be ignored. And I'm not giving excuses, but I
Yeah.
mean,
But I totally
that's
agree
the
with you,
world
Tom.
today.
Sure, it is. It is the world today. And it's unfortunate that it's the world today. But I agree with you.
100%.
Be like to dig your heels in, it doesn't really
It's just
provide
a bad look
you.
no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. It's a
Yeah.
very bad look.
You're not getting the
Agreed.
empathy from everyone else. They're going, oh, they're making excuses like everybody else.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Exactly. Of course.
All
And
right.
that's
So
not.
Thank you for allowing me to talk about that. It's been like,
Yeah, of
I
course.
got into it in a couple of conversations with folks. Some were like super defending, some were like super, like, how could this be? Sherm's dead to me. As usual, I
Mm,
tend to be kind of down the middle and try to be pragmatic, but it's just it's a polarizing piece I wanted to open up. So thank
yeah,
you for
but
yeah,
being
it was a
again,
great conversation.
you have feelings on those conversations. Talk about them. As
Yeah,
with everything else, you can
agreed.
have healthy dialogue.
Agreed.
You don't have to agree. My favorite.
yeah,
I have
please have
one
healthy
client
dialogue.
says debate. Right, that can be part of things. It doesn't necessarily need to
Yes.
decide anything. You can have fruitful
Yes.
conversation, not hate each other or think, "Oh, that guy's a
Exactly.
jackass." Right? I mean, sometimes you can
Agreed.
think that. It's okay. But
That's another whole podcast there too.
right.
I was
All right.
just going to
So
say, imagine a world where we could actually debate.
it's like West Wing.
I create
Distant
my own little
past.
version of that everywhere I go and all day,
I
every
love
day.
that.
I try to take my little pod of happy debate everywhere I go.
It's
All right,
great.
I've got one last piece for us. I'm gonna play this
Yeah.
clip. This is from our speak pipe. So we get these voice recordings from anonymous guests, and it sort of relates to being in the workforce, relates to really specifically the theme of this podcast, which is this meeting should have been a podcast. But you'll hear what our caller has to say here, and we just want to get your take. Okay, so here we go.
I don't even know if I can pinpoint one particular time, but what's up with the meetings where you feel like the scribe, or like you're just there to CYA, or you're listening to people just bullet point their way through their own agendas, and you're wondering, why am I even here? While trying to secretly multitask. Because why am I even here? HR people, I know you feel me. I know you do. The ones where you end up being the omnipresent presence. You know what I mean. And there are times that make sense when we need to be present, but come on. I'm not security. I don't even have the beefy arms to cut it. What's up with those meetings?
Can you imagine yourself in? I mean, when's the last time you remember that feeling?
Are you kidding? I literally just said to someone, I was at a conference in San Francisco this past week, and I said, there has to be a way where I could have artificial intelligence be in these stupid meetings that are unnecessary. Like, can I figure out how to free up my calendar when I don't need to be in this meeting, or you just need presence in this meeting? How do I give that to AI? That's what I'd love
You
to
know,
know.
that's what Gong needs to do, because I get my Gong like meeting
Yeah.
notes and my summary and action steps. Like there should be this meeting should have been an email
Yeah.
rating score. It's like
That would be
41% of this
fantastic.
meeting
Yeah.
was necessary. You know, and
Or
I
like,
think if you train people,
totally. I feel like, or it could be like, this meeting's being buffered for equitable practices and ensuring psychological safety to all of our
Or even
employees.
if you had an AI bot to say, here's what we're talking about, here's my agenda, and for it to scream out, like, you know how Teams has the 5-minute warning? This would be like,
Yes,
you're off task.
you're off topic.
no,
So
I mean,
good. So good.
I'd love for it to like analyze like Tom's average meeting is 30 minutes. 16 minutes of it are productive. Tom is only allowed to have 20-minute meetings.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it just
I love
integrates to
that.
your calendar and it's like,
That's a
nope,
brilliant
you have to cram.
suggestion.
Some
It's
kid in high
it's
school is going to be listening
brilliant.
to this and come up with this for us, and they're going to sell it.
Totally.
Yes. Yeah. Please, high school, figure it out.
And so many people will purchase this. Are you kidding? I'd also love for a podcast, or sorry, for artificial intelligence to be like, you've already made a decision on this C-suite level. We don't need to go back and make and revisit the decision.
I love it.
Thank you.
All right, Christine,
The C-suite AI, that
Amazing.
man.
right, especially the ones who are wishy-washy and bounce back and forth on things.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, that's the interesting thing. I think I read an article somewhere. I think the title was, could AI could AI do your CEO's job better than your CEO? Something like that.
Ooh, I'd love to see a report on the statistics on that.
The
Not
same.
my CEO, but I'm sure there's some.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
this has been great. Tom,
was
great to see you
awesome.
again, as always.
Yes, same here.
Whose ears were coming out of your hat? Is that like
These are my
Yoda
Yoda ears.
That's Yoda. Okay. All
Yep.
right.
I had somebody call me an elf. I'm like, it says Star Wars on it. I'm
Yeah.
like,
I mean, I couldn't connect the dots myself, so like that's why I was
if I
like,
was in person, you would get it. It's just a
I
very
know it's
big-
low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
That's great.
And Christine, thank you for joining the spirit with your
Tom and
antlers.
Tom, this was awesome. Yeah, of course. I usually I was looking for my background before we were recording because I wanted to do my Charlie Brown background. That's the Christmas background I always have for Christmas this time of year.
Like it.
We can put that picture up too in post production.
Sounds like it. Okay, good. Sounds good. I'll send you those two videos. Those two.
I'll send
images.
you the picture of my front lawn ornaments, all my Snoopies and Woodstocks and stuff.
Love it. Love it. Such a good Christmas staple.
Well, thanks everything. Thanks, Christine, for joining us. We're going to include your contact
for having
information
me.
and how to find you in our show notes. Everyone else, have a wonderful holiday. If you're listening to us after the holiday, hope it was great. Thanks for joining us on this meeting.
Thank
Should have
you
been a
all.
podcast.